Hi there, I'm Zen and welcome back to another video. In this one, we are going to be looking at Google Fonts. Google Fonts is awesome. How do we install it? How do we use it? Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. So as you can see here, we've just got a standard page set up, an empty HTML page with a CSS file attached to it. So the first question you might want to ask is, well, what is Google Fonts? Why do we need it? What's the point of it? Etc. etc. Well, this could be a really, really long story to answer. So I'm just going to do this quick, which is unusual for me, but I'm going to try. So you see, before Google Fonts, before web fonts came about, when we were creating web pages, okay, trying to do fonts to make the site look nice was really hard because, believe it or not, fonts have a huge impact on the overall appearance of your website. It can dramatically change the way a site appears. But the problem we have is the way that fonts are actually run in your system. You see, just because you have a font on your computer doesn't mean that your users have a font on their computer or laptop or mobile phone or whatever it may be. Okay, now if you're wondering where your fonts are, well, that's actually quite easy. You see, all you need to do is to go to your C drive on your computer. So let's go there. Just do this. Let's go to C drive. And then you go into Windows. And then there is a folder down here called Fonts. And we go in there. And in a second, we'll see all the fonts which are installed by default on this machine. And so what a lot of people used to do is spend days, weeks, months looking for the perfect font, find it, download it, install on their machine, design their web page, post it on the internet, and then it goes on there. It's written in sans serif. And the reason being is because that user who's viewing their computer did not have that font installed. And so when we actually have to do rules, and we'll just do one here, we're just going to do a class P1, and we're choosing font family. The reason why it's called font family, or I assume it's the reason, I don't know, I might be wrong, is that we actually have to give a list of fonts. Okay, and the idea is, so let's just choose this one first, Franklin Gothic. So the idea is that we're saying this is the font that we really want them to render the text in. But if they don't have that font, please use Arial and Arrow. If they don't have that, please just use Arial. And if they don't have that, please use sans serif. Okay, so we're giving it an order. And the idea is that the further down we go, these are the next, second best, third best, and so on. But these have also got a higher install rate across the internet. And sans serif is like a default system font. I think Arial is now as well. Okay, but that's basically how it works. So if you didn't have Franklin Gothic, it'll then show it in Arial and so on. And this was really frustrating for web designers because, you know, you spend a long time finding a font in which it just sets it off perfectly and then it doesn't look like it at all. So web fonts are slightly different because what happens in a web font is that you're hosting it yourself. Okay, so the font itself is on the internet. And then when the person goes to your website, it is your browser that downloads the font and it renders it within the browser. It's not installed on their machine. It's kept solely in the browser. And this is a two-way win because obviously you don't want to be installing things on people's machines because, you know, what if you're a bad man and you're putting viruses into that font, which is more than possible. So when we use web fonts, we're basically saying, look, I've got the font for you. This is what it is. Please use it on my site. And that's what we do. And this is why web fonts are brilliant because if we didn't have web fonts, we'd be back to how we were back in the 1990s and it'll just look ugly. And my websites look ugly anyway because I'm a terrible coder. It's also important to note that there is not just Google Fonts. Okay, so this is where we're going, fonts.google.com. One of the places I used to use for ages is Font Squirrel. Font Squirrel is fantastic as well. And there are many, many others out there. Okay, Font Squirrel used to be really good because it still is really good. So back in the days when not all browsers supported true type fonts, you had to use a generator to create the other family of fonts. So shout out for Font Squirrel. Like I say, I'm not, no one would sponsor my channel, let's be honest. Look at the quality of my videos. But, you know, I think it is worth pointing out that FontsGrill was a savior before Google Fonts came out. And a lot of people still use FontsGrill, and absolutely no reason not to. Okay, they're still really good. Google Fonts is just what I like. There are two ways to use Google Fonts. Okay, so we're going to choose, okay, let's use this Achaia. So we can either reference it, so link to it from the Google website, or to the Google website, I'd say, or we can download it and install on our machine. And what we're going to do is to do both versions. However, before we do that, we're going to need to have, you know, something to work on. So let's go back into our code. We'll get rid of that. We'll fix that in a moment. And what we're going to do is just create two paragraphs. Okay, we're going to give the first one a class of P1, and notice I'm using Emmet on Visual Studio Code just to save some time. And then again, I'm going to put in some lorem text. Okay, so we've got a bunch of lorem there, and then I'll do another one with a class of P2, and again we'll just do lorem times 5. So we've got a bundle of text that we can see. As always, we should always check this and make sure it is how we assume it to be. And there we have it. Okay, so that's our lorem text at the moment. Okay, and in fact, I think what's happening in this first one is using that Gothic. So we've now got a page set up. How do we use Google Fonts? Okay, so we're going to use this one first. Okay, I don't know how you pronounce it, but that one. So the first way we're going to do is a simple way, which is just the link to it. Okay, and you can see here, all you need to do, and Google makes it really easy, is that you select that link there. So we copy that. We go into our HTML page, and we put the link. And this part is important. It must go as your first link. Okay, because what you want to do, you want to have the font downloaded first, so that it can then be applied. Then what we do is that we still got to go into here, into the CSS, and then we've got to set that as the font we want to use. So again, we'll go back over to the website, and see, and make it easy again. You just copy this set of rules there, copy, and then we go back over here, and we just paste it in. Okay. If I actually just get me things next to each other, brings back over. Now, hopefully, when I save this, there we go. We'll see it gets updated straight away. Now, this idea of linking it is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. It works great, and all the other bits and pieces. Okay, there's absolutely no reason why not to do this. Well, there is one reason or two, how you want to count it. So here are the two reasons. Yeah, I'm going to go with two. The two reasons why I think you may not want to do this. Number one, it's very, very unlikely that Google's going to go under. All right, if they do go under, probably the world will end. Who knows? All right, so it's very likely Google's going to go under, but they may decide to no longer share this font, or the person who is going to give these people, you know, I'm not even going to attempt to say their names, my apologies. You know, these people might decide that they don't want it to be hosted on Google Fonts. They may decide that actually they're going to start charging for this font, and it gets removed. And suddenly, then again, your text will go back to like a sans serif font or whatever it may be. So there's that issue. The other one is, which is actually perhaps more possible, more probable, is that they may decide to update the font slightly. Now, I don't know how that works for Google. Do they update it and they just, just replace it wholesale, or do they create, version 2 of this? I don't know. But there are those potential issues where it might actually just stop it, or it might be a different version, and maybe you want the original version. And therefore, downloading it is always a good idea. And I actually prefer the download just because then I've got control of it. So if we go for another one, let's go for another one which is a bit different. Let's go with Stick. We've seen Stick before, but we'll go with Stick. With Stick, you can actually do a download here, or you can just download the family from here as well. So we download Stick. Okay, so we download the family down here, and all we need to do is that we need to obviously show it in the folder, and then we want to unzip it. So here we have it. And the great thing about Visual Studio Code is that we can just drag it into the fonts folder. So I have a folder inside my CSS folder just for fonts. I think it's the best place to put them. Okay, it's where they belong. It is part of how you display your website, so I believe it belongs in the CSS. So we have that there. Okay, and we think, great, how do we work with it? Well, that's a good question. Because you might think so, well, okay, all I have to do is the same idea. Dot E2. And then we can type in the font. Whoops, I might need to learn to spell font family. And we say, oh, okay, let's see if we can reference it. Let's see if we can go stick. So we could write like that, and you can see straight away we're getting errors coming up. Okay, so no problem, man. Got your back. I know what we need to do. You need to be in quotes. So yeah, that's right. There's no errors. Let's see if it works. And of course, the answer is it won't work. Okay, it just won't. If it does, no, thank goodness it doesn't. Okay, and the reason for this is that even though we've got it on our website and we're kind of calling it, you know, this is not how it works. You might go, oh, hang on a minute, no, you've not done the reference right. Oh, no, you've got to go fonts / man. That's where you got, no, that still won't work. All right, just trust me, it won't work. So what you have to do is actually to declare the font first. And it's actually really easy. And this needs to be done at the top of your CSS rules. And the first thing is that you'd go at font face. Okay, so the font face is the actual rule that you need. And so the next thing you do is actually declare what you want to call it. Okay, and it doesn't have to be the same as the name itself. You could call it Banana Man if you wanted. I'm just going to call it Stick because it kind of makes sense to me. And then source, and we use the URL, and then we just tell it where it is. So again, we don't think you even need to quote for this. So it is inside fonts / stick regular. Okay, and then obviously in here now, all we have to do is to type in stick, and we save it, and then we bring up our page, and there we have it in stick. Okay, now a few extra bits on this. There are a few other things you can do with this. For example, there are options for font weight and font style. Okay, so font weight will basically be if you want it bold or if you want a thin version, and font style is for the italics. All right, so the reason why I've done it like that on this one is just so you can see how you can do it. Here's your little test. Okay, what I want you to do is to go back to Google Fonts, and I want you to, let's choose one. I was going to say let's choose one together, but you can't because you're not here with me. I'm all alone. So let's choose, okay, let's do the one that everyone likes, which is Roboto. Okay, it's actually one of the ones I use quite a lot in my website. So we have a lot of ones here in Roboto. So your task is quite simple. Using Roboto, download and use. And what we want is we want the light version, the light 300, to be used as the normal font. And then obviously 300 to be italic. We want the regular 400 to be the one in bold. And therefore the regular 400 italic will be the bold italic. Okay, so that's your job, and you can pause this video and then I will do the code and all the work after you've unpaused it. So I'm pausing it, so not me, so pause the video now. Okay, so hopefully you've done it okay, and I'm just going to show you how to do it in case you're unsure. So I keep saying so today, my apologies. First thing we're going to do is download the family. Now I've already done this about 1,000,000 times on my machine. As you see, number 3, I'm just going to go straight to showing folder, and I should have a Roboto folder already. Okay, so here I have all the Robotos. So I've got to remember which ones I want. So I want light and light italic. So Roboto light, Roboto light italic, and then I wanted the Roboto regular. Okay, and then I want the italics, which is actually going to be my bold italic. So I'm going to pull those across, put them into my font folder, and then I've got to do the same bits of code. So I'm just going to pause the video. Okay, so this is the code that hopefully you've made. So start off with the font face for Roboto. Okay, now notice I didn't put the font style or weight underneath it. There was no real need to, but it was just to help you to do this one. And then the next one, you can see we add the bold and the normal. So this is the bold for the regular font. Notice here that the name of Roboto is still the same. It's not Roboto bold or anything like that. It still uses the same font name, okay? In this case, Roboto. And then the same for this next one. And the same for the next one here. The name Roboto, we're using the light italic. So this is the italic version of it. And then finally, for the bold and italic, we're using the Roboto italic because we're saying the standard regular one is the bold. So again, bold and italic settings are there. How does this look in the HTML? Well, over here, I made a new class called P3. And what I did is I just highlighted some bits, put them in bold, use emphasis and then bold and emphasis. And just for clicks, I used the old version for italics, I. Okay. And I should have also said in the CSS file, P3, I just added Roboto there. So how does it look? So it looks exactly as we expected it to. We've got the 300 count acting as regular. We've got this one acting for our bold, which is the regular one. We've got it in italics here and then bold italics here. And even here, like I say, this is the extra sort of normal or throwback italic version there. And you can see all the code here as well. You can see from the CSS, it's acting exactly as we expect it to. Okay, so that was a quick-ish video, longer than I thought, but still quick-ish. Hope it's been useful. As always, please comment and subscribe. Let me know if there was something extra you wanted me to put in this video, something I've missed out. Have I said something wrong? Please tell me. But that's the end of the video. See you in the next one. I'm Zen, signing out.